to take strong action against any ceasefire violations, but didn't threaten to return to war. Israel's military said militants had fired at troops in areas of Rafah City that are Israeli controlled, that is according to agreed upon ceasefire lines. Hamas, which continued to accuse Israel of multiple ceasefire violations, said communication with its remaining units in Rafah had been cut off for months and said, quote, "We are not responsible for any incidents occurring in those areas." And to speak more on this, I do want to bring in Enya Irvine with the
something to
Foundation
watch
for the Defense
together
of Democracies to talk more
because I haven't
on
went
this.
live in a while.
Enya,
So.
we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
So what can you share with us as we have learned that Israel is now halting the transfer of aid into Gaza after it said that Hamas violated the ceasefire? It's a very tenuous situation already.
1 minute, guys.
Sure. I agree with your assessment there. So what happened was, in order to get to the place of the ceasefire, what Donald Trump negotiated in his 20-point plan was that Israel would withdraw, the IDF would withdraw from Gaza to an agreed upon line, and they would release some of the military pressure in order to get two major concessions from Hamas that Israelis have wanted since day one, that were goals of the war. One is to return the hostages, and two was to disarm Hamas. And these were the two major tenets and major strategic achievements that Israel has wanted to get done since October 8th, since this war began. So here we are, a week and a half into Donald Trump's brokered ceasefire, and Hamas has managed to run afoul of both of those main tenets. They have not been able to return the hostages as promised within 72 hours. There's still over a dozen fallen hostages being held by the terror group. And now they have broken the ceasefire, with the Hamas spokesperson just yesterday saying that the group will now refuse to disarm.
So what is the next step?
So Israel now, having released this military pressure for Donald Trump, having pulled back to these agreed upon lines, has one more line of leverage that they can use on Hamas, and that's the aid. So now what it's saying to Hamas, after Hamas killed 2 soldiers just this morning, again violating that ceasefire, which it was already violating by not returning the hostages, mind you. Now they're saying, okay, Hamas, if you're not going to play ball, if you're not going to meet these milestones with this 20-point plan, we are going to withhold aid. So we'll see how long. There will be a lot of international pressure on Israel to release the aid. The aid, of course, does benefit the terror groups and the gangs and the clans that try to use it and resell it on the black market. But of course, it also is going to hurt everyday Gazans. So it's going to be a calculus for Israel of how they can put pressure on Hamas, but not wanting to inflict too much pain.
I pray that the sound is good.
Measures on the people of Gaza.
I also
and
had
this is a very
to
difficult
update.
situation. We were hearing from President Trump as he was celebrating this ceasefire, calling it historic, but did say that if Hamas doesn't fall in line with these agreed upon points,
the government has been shut down for 18 days.
The full force of the military will be put upon Hamas. Obviously, no one wants any more fatalities out there, but is there talk that unfortunately that might have to happen if Hamas continues to refuse to follow the agreed upon ceasefire tenements?
Well, not just that, Stephanie, but I can also tell you that within the past 2 days, there have been announcements not only from Donald Trump himself, but also from CENTCOM, from the commander of CENTCOM, who is the most senior general in this arena for the U.S. military, saying that Hamas is going to have consequences not only for attacking Israelis, but for killing Palestinians and for killing Gazans. Hamas has been, ever since the Israeli military pulled back to the agreed upon line, Hamas has been bloodletting and killing scores of its own people. So Hamas has been running amok of not only the letter of the ceasefire, but also of the spirit of the ceasefire by now turning its weapons on its own people. So I think that the U.S. is standing behind Israel. They've said, look, Hamas is in clear violation. Israel's going to take care of it. We don't want this whole deal to fall apart. We do want to see a better future for Gaza. But on the other hand, Hamas is clearly testing boundaries here and trying to see how far they can push the Israelis before they have some sort of consequence. And that's exactly what we're seeing now.
So we're just going to have to see how it all plays out. And yeah, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you for tuning in, guys.
Viewers from the Associated Press stating that an Israeli security official says the transfer of humanitarian aid into Gaza is halted until further notice after a Hamas ceasefire violation. Any developments, we of course will bring them to you when they happen. We're going to step away briefly. We'll be right back.
Let's be parking lot.
We're continuing to follow all of the major headlines out of the Middle East as you're taking a live look at the Israel-Gaza border. And we were sharing with you some breaking news developments as an Israeli security official has said the transfer of aid into Gaza has been halted until further notice after Hamas ceasefire violation. We also wanted to play out the very latest briefing from the Israeli government as they shared new information just a few hours ago. We are blurring some of the video that they provided because it was very disturbing. However, you will hear the description of that video from the spokesperson, and we did want to share with you that viewer discretion is advised.
What?
Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom. I'm Shosh Bedrosian, spokeswoman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Prime Minister's office. I will take a few questions after a couple of very brief points to share with you. Please put your questions in the chat of this Zoom with your name and your outlet. It is Sunday, October 19th, and today is the 744th day Hamas has continued to hold on to our hostages inside of the Gaza Strip. It has been 6 days since the return of our 20 living hostages. Some of their stories are now emerging, accounts that are harrowing, deeply disturbing, and impossible to ignore. Let me share with you some of this testimony shared with the Prime Minister by these hostages. Survivors describe being locked in cages for nearly 2 years.
Oh my goodness, 2 years?
Fed only
That was only a
spoonfuls of
year or
rice,
something like that.
kept in near total isolation. Many suffered untreated injuries, beatings, malnourishment, with some even losing up to 40% of their body weight. Arms and legs bound for extended periods of time. These are not exaggerations. They are the lived experiences
It's just
of
horrible.
our hostages. As Prime Minister Netanyahu has said, the horrors inflicted by Hamas prove that we have not moved beyond the barbarism of the past. He has called Hamas monsters, and the testimony of our returned hostages tragically affirms this. Hamas's beliefs, methods, and its goals are the annihilation of the State of Israel and its citizens and its supporters. This is why the framework makes very,
Are
very
you
clear
able to
that
see me
Hamas
well,
can have no
guys? I
future
can turn on the
in
light.
running the Gaza Strip.
It's not really a
I'm gonna
sunny
just
day,
show some
so
video on the screen behind me. You'll probably notice that there is silence of the ceasefire now and the free Gaza voices across the world. They are silent as the ceasefire continues into the second week. The people of Gaza find themselves captives, as like our hostages, to Hamas itself. In recent days, pay attention to the credible reports and video evidence of Hamas executing civilians in Gaza, men with their hands tied, blindfolded, and shot in public in the back of the head. These are not actions of a resistance, very clearly so. They are the acts of a terror regime enforcing absolute control for those who do not comply with their Islamist jihadi beliefs. The international community must recognize what we are dealing with here, a violent jihadist organization that not only targets Israelis, but terrorizes its own people. Just take a look
that
at
is
all
just
of this
horrible.
on the screen behind me, beating people with a circle of people surrounding them in the city right here. Now, the government released this video of armed masked men dragging Gazans and then beating them. We want to know where the outrage is and why this has not made headlines across the world. Where are the UN resolutions that demanded an end to the violence and the emergency sessions calling for Hamas to end its reign of terror? The silence speaks louder than words here. Today, the IDF announced terrorists fired an anti-tank missile and gunfire towards our troops operating in the area of Rafah to dismantle terrorist infrastructure, all in accordance with the ceasefire agreement. Now, in response, the IDF began striking in the area to eliminate the threat. Just before I came on here, we actually released a statement following Hamas's violation of the ceasefire that the Prime Minister held a consultation with the Defense Minister and the heads of the security establishment and instructed them to act forcefully against terrorist targets inside of the Gaza Strip. Now, as this savagery continues, so does our fight for the release of our deceased hostages. The 72-hour window, which Hamas agreed to under President Trump's plan that we're currently in, has expired, where the terror group was supposed to release all of our hostages at one time. It has expired by a week now. Now, just this morning, the Prime Minister demanded the release of all 16 of our hostages' remains that are in Gaza still. Over the weekends, Hamas released the bodies of 3 of our deceased hostages. Eliyahu Margalit, who
Did you
was
say
feeding
bodies?
his beloved horses on Kibbutz Nirot
So they
on
killed
the
them.
morning of October 7th, when he was murdered and his body was kidnapped into Gaza. And Ronen Engel, who was murdered while his family was in their home. He was defending them from terrorists that infiltrated their house on Kibbutz Nirot on the morning of October 7th. And just this afternoon, the body of a Thai hostage, Sontai Okarsri, was also identified. He was murdered on the morning of October 7th while in the orchards of Kibbutz Be'eri. His body was later kidnapped into the Gaza Strip. Now, may their memories forever be a blessing. Hamas knows where our hostages are located inside of the Gaza Strip. We are aware that when Hamas feels the pressure from Israel and the United States, they start to return more of our hostages' remains. Let's reiterate the facts here. Hamas is required to uphold its commitments to the mediators, including President Trump, to return our remaining hostages as part of this agreement. The Prime Minister has made it abundantly clear there will be no compromise and Israel will spare no effort until all of our fallen hostages are home. There are 16 more hostages that need to be returned. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu submitted for government approval today the permanent name of this war as the War of Redemption, in Hebrew known as Milchemet HaTkuma. It was approved by the government. It comes as Israel marks 2 years since a terrible disaster, where we remember how we started in times of tragedy and how we rose up dramatically on our feet, dynamically, and on our feet and returned intensive war to our enemies. The Prime Minister said last night in an interview here in Israel that Israel removed the existential threat of the Iranian axis from the Jewish state as Israel broke the deadly chokehold Iran tried to create here, establishing this national national redemption project in the land of Israel and our strong and flourishing state. Prime Minister Netanyahu said on the third day of the war that we will change the face of the Middle East. And that's exactly what we did, which was made possible by three things: the sacrifice and bravery from our heroic soldiers on all fronts, the decisions led by the Prime Minister and the government, and the special relationship between the Prime Minister and President Trump, who helped us in the second half of the war. From the beginning, the Prime Minister took on enormous decisions, first declaring war on Hamas in Gaza and calling up all of our soldiers, all 400,000 of them, to be recruited for this war. Decisions such as waiting to launch the operation in Lebanon against Hezbollah instead of being spread out on multiple fronts. The Prime Minister's defiance on going into Rafah with or without the support from the Biden administration. And taking out the heads of Iran's axis like Sinwar and Nasrallah, the Beeper operation in Lebanon, and the historic operation against Iran's nuclear program in direct coordination with
Thank you for the
President Trump.
like.
The
God
Prime
bless
Minister
you.
says this is a war of redemption of our people as a direct continuation of the War of Independence. I'll take a few questions right now. So we have a lot of questions. Several journalists have many questions wrapped up in their responses. So I'm going to take just typically the top question or the top two from each
Oh,
reporter.
thank you for
So
the
this is from Joel
emojis.
Pollack from Breitbart News. Would you say that Israel has won the war? I laid out my answer to that, Joel, specifically
We still have
talking about the
18 of our
incredible achievements that
hostages.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has
I
gotten us to
thought
this
he
point.
released them
All of
all.
the achievements inside of Gaza,
And a
when
lot
it
of
comes to
bodies that
even the
were
Houthis, when it
brought
comes
back to
Hezbollah
us.
in
Like, their
Lebanon,
families,
in
we're never
addition
gonna
to
see them
Iran,
again
the
alive.
incredible achievements President Trump
This
and Prime
honestly
Minister
kills
Netanyahu
me.
got us to the point when it comes to Iran's nuclear system and program over there. So when it comes to your question, like I said, laying out all of the achievements that got us to this point in time where we are right now.
So,
Going to your second question, Joel, if Israel feels the need for strong military action against terrorists in Gaza, as the Prime Minister said, does that mean that the ceasefire
what time is it there?
over?
Because it looks like it's
Israel
dark
has
time.
continued to fulfill their side of the ceasefire, as we have
I
continued to
didn't know
say
that
over
the
and over and
government
over
was
again
shut
for
down
the
for
last
18 days
week now.
now.
And I will point you to the direction of Hamas, who has still not released the bodies of all of our hostages. Remember, like we said at the beginning of the ceasefire, we were expecting all of our hostages to come out at one time,
Yes.
all 48 of our hostages. And here we are 1 week later, and we still have 16 bodies that we need to get back from Hamas that are still inside of the Gaza Strip.
Well, you're making it sound like they're dead.
But
Bodies.
specifically when it comes to the question about the terrorists inside of Gaza, I want to just reiterate the statement that was published by the
These
Prime
people
Minister's
are
office
just
before I got
complete
on here, that
monsters.
Hamas's violation of the ceasefire. The Prime Minister actually held a consultation with the Defense Minister and the heads of security establishment and instructed them to act forcefully against terrorist targeting in the Gaza Strip. This is in reference to an incident that took place in the Rafah area inside of the Gaza Strip.
What's your guys' thoughts on this?
Lior Soroka from the Washington Post: were any soldiers injured in the attack inside of Gaza today? I will refer that question to the IDF. This is Alexander Cornwell from Reuters. Hamas has said it remains committed to the ceasefire and denies any knowledge of any incident in Rafah. Well, first off, just for journalists to even have communication with Hamas, of course you know, Alexander, they are lying. They have not fulfilled their side of the ceasefire. And it's a simple reason. As we continue to say, I've stood up here for the last week to tell you that not all of our hostages are back. And we're waiting for
You better not
16
touch
bodies.
them.
This was a commitment that was made under the first phase of this plan, Trump's plan, to get us to this point where we are today, and we are waiting for Hamas to follow through with that. In terms
I
of
don't
this
think
other
he's going
question
to.
you're asking, Alexander, does the Israeli government believe that those who opened fire on Israeli soldiers were Hamas militants? Refer you back to the statement that I just read about the incident. I am going to your next
Thank
question.
you guys
Given
for
the presence
joining
of multiple
in.
armed groups in Gaza, how does Israel view Hamas's responsibility for ensuring that all factions adhere to the terms of the ceasefire? Well, first off, Hamas should also be adhering to all the terms of the ceasefire. We are still waiting, like I continue to say, day after day, we're waiting for them to fulfill their side of this agreement. But just to talk about the horrific videos we continue to see out of the Gaza Strip of people being executed in the streets by the Hamas terror group are despicable. It just shows what we have been faced with for the last 2 years, the grotesque way this terror group actually acts against their own people inside of the Gaza Strip. This is who Hamas is.
That's
So, you know, for all the journalists that clearly have a communication line to them, my question back to you is, why don't you ask Hamas why they're doing this to their own people inside of the Gaza Strip? This is James Marlowe, an independent broadcast journalist. In an interview with Reuters, a senior Hamas official said Hamas will not hand over its weapons and that Hamas always intended only a temporary ceasefire with Israel. My response to that is that Hamas accepted the terms of this plan that we are currently under, and the 20-point plan outlines that Hamas needs to demilitarize, all of Gaza needs to be demilitarized, Hamas needs to be disarmed, and that Hamas will have no future role in the governance of the Palestinian people inside of the Gaza Strip. Yael Ben-Horin from Agencia EFE, do you consider today's events in Gaza the official resumption of the war? I gave a statement that the Prime Minister's office put out just a little while ago, speaking about this incident that happened. Lazard Berman from the Times of Israel. On October 9th, you said all of the Prime Minister's objectives have now been achieved. With Hamas holding onto the majority of the slain hostages and saying that they won't disarm, is that still your assessment? So to talk about that, like I said, in terms of the 20-point plan, all of this has been approved on all sides by all parties that Hamas needs to be demilitarized. They will have no parts of governing the Palestinian people in the future. But like I continue to say, we are waiting for Hamas to fulfill their side of this ceasefire agreement to release all of our hostages that are still in captivity at this point in time, which is 16 bodies. And I outlined earlier in this briefing what our 20 living hostages have been able to convey about their experiences in captivity. I want all journalists to really understand those stories and understand really what our hostages went through and how horrific this terror group is that is clearly holding their own people captive inside of the Gaza Strip. And you can see the enormous amount of violence that is happening to their own people inside of the Gaza Strip as well.
It's just heartbreaking.
This is Hilde Gran from TV2 Norway. Are the airstrikes happening within the yellow line? Are there civilians in the area? In terms of any airstrikes inside of the Gaza Strip, we are currently in a ceasefire, like we continue to say, but if there is a threat to our soldiers inside of the Gaza Strip, they are allowed to, of course, protect themselves and do what is needed to do. Just going through the rest of these questions. This is Kano Watanabe, excuse me for the mispronunciation there, from a Japanese newspaper. I answered your question about the airstrikes in Gaza just now. Jean from PBS, you want us to report on the happenings inside of Gaza, but you don't allow us as independent journalists to go inside of the Gaza Strip. In reference to that, I always and have in the last few days talked about journalist access going into the Gaza Strip. I referred that question to the IDF. Also, the Prime Minister's office has facilitated these trips and these visits for journalists to go into the Gaza Strip to embed with the IDF as well. Hannah Julian from Jewish Edition. Has the Prime Minister discussed the repeated multiple Hamas violations of the agreement with President Donald Trump? I'll refer you back to my statement that I just said in reference to the incident that happened inside of the Gaza Strip with our IDF soldiers. But Israel and President Trump continue to put immense pressure on Hamas to release our remaining hostages day after day. We continue to do so. And Ellie Cook from Newsweek, can you confirm reported strikes east of Jabalia? I refer that question to the IDF as well. And Matthew Duran from ABC Australia, how many militia groups inside of Gaza is Israel supporting, and how does that undermine the prospect of stability inside of the Gaza Strip? Here's what I can provide you on that specifically. We know that Hamas needs to be demilitarized. This is what we continue to say over and over again. This is part of the 20-point plan. Hamas cannot have any part of the future of the Gaza Strip. We must completely get rid of them. And I refer, I ask you to take a look at that 20-point plan. But like I said, the violence inside of the Gaza Strip is disgusting to watch. These Palestinians suffer. Here in Israel, we are scratching our heads as to where the outrage is. We want to know where the outrage is. For 2 years, people have been calling for a ceasefire, calling to free Gaza. And here we are at this point in time watching these horrific videos I just showed you on our screen, Palestinians being executed in the streets by Hamas, and the international community is silent. Okay, looks like those are the rest of the questions that I can see on my end. Thanks so much for everyone who joined us today.
Those were the very latest remarks from the Israeli government amid the violation by Hamas with the ceasefire. We are going to step away briefly. Much more to come on Live Now for Fox. We'll be right back.
Welcome, guys. Okay, everybody's Sunday is going good. Ouch. Apparently it's raining outside. I didn't know it was gonna rain. I don't know your guys' weather, but please be safe if you're going to walk somewhere or drive. I pray you have a blessed Sunday. I pray that it doesn't keep on raining. In Detroit. What's your guys' thoughts on all of this?
Just moments ago, we did see Vice President J.D. Vance boarding Air Force Two. I did want to play that out for you.
Oh, there's JD Vance. I'm assuming he is.
All right, so we did want to play that out. Just a brief moment as we saw Vice President J.D. Vance boarding Air Force Two. We also saw his wife Usha Vance alongside a sleeping child, and no doubt a lot of traveling is really tough right there. So we did want to share that with you. Meanwhile, I did want to also share this live look with you of Washington, D.C., specifically the White House amid the ongoing federal government
There's our
shutdown.
flag, guys.
And just moments ago, Representative Randy Vine, a Republican from Florida, took to the social media platform
What is that tall thing
to
back
talk
there?
about that. Let's play that out.
I sincere hope that this comes to an end. So we have a number of media folks that are on the line, as well as we are broadcasting this press conference across all of our social media channels. Down below, it will tell those in the media what you have to do in order to be able to ask the question. I have some opening comments, and then I look forward to asking your questions. I would ask a little bit of grace. This is the first time we're doing a virtual press conference, so hopefully all the technology is going to work the way that it is supposed to. But I think it's important to be able to share what's going on with the media and my constituents who are going to be watching the live feed at the same time. So today is day 19 of the Democrat shutdown. I think it's important that people be reminded what happened here. On September 22nd, the U.S. House of Representatives passed something called a Clean Continuing Resolution. That is a bill that basically says keep funding the government at the exact same levels it's been funded before. Make no changes that Republicans like. Make no changes
Hopefully
that
my
Democrats
internet
like.
doesn't
Just
go out,
keep
guys,
doing
in
the
today's
same thing.
raining.
And we did that because we thought we needed 7 more weeks to finish the budget process in a bipartisan way. You have to pass 12 bills,
Just to
appropriation
let you guys
bills,
know, just in
from the
case.
House and the Senate in order to fund the government. And all 12 of those have been out of committee. Some of those have passed off the floor, but we weren't done. It's sort of needing a couple extra days to get your term paper done. We thought we needed 7 more weeks. So without sticking a bunch of stuff in that bill, short bill, extend it for 7 weeks. And Democrats popped up and said, no, we are not going to extend the government for 7 weeks unless you will spend $1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion, by the way, that they did not provide any means to pay for. Their proposal did not include tax increases. It didn't include any government spending. They made no effort to pay for it. They didn't even pull out their tax the billionaires nonsense. They just said we want the government to borrow $1.5 trillion. And a big chunk of that $1.5 trillion was to pay for free health care for illegal immigrants. $200 billion of that $1.5 trillion for free health care for illegal immigrants, borrowed from our children and grandchildren. We said, look, if you want to have these debates as part of the budget, you have those debates, but you do not shut down the government in order to get free health care for illegal immigrants. Their other demand was for us to agree that the COVID pandemic is ongoing, that the United States re-enter the COVID pandemic response, and that we flood the market with COVID money like when the pandemic started. And I think we should have that debate as well. Are we still in the middle of a COVID pandemic? I mean, I don't think we are, but if Democrats want to make the argument that we're in the middle of COVID and we need to do all those restrictions, then let them make that. They've also admitted something they should have admitted a long time ago, that the Affordable Care Act is a failure. It is not affordable. And they've asked for billions and billions and billions of dollars to bail out the Unaffordable Care Act. Our view, let's have all of these discussions, but you have them when the government is open. I understand that Democrats like to pass bills to know what's in them. They like to govern in the dark, but we believe in an open government. So for 19 days, the government has been closed, and it has had real effects on the people of Florida. I want to introduce one of them now, who was so kind as to join us in this press conference. We're going to let him share some comments, and maybe I'll have a question or two for him. But we've got Brandon Hartzog. Brandon's here. He's the chair of Local 10 of Council 243 of the Navy Region Southeast for the AFGE, which is a union that represents 820,000 federal and government workers across the country. And we'd like Brandon to tell us what you do, tell us, what you're doing when we're not in a shutdown, and how the shutdown has affected you and your fellow workers. I think the media would benefit from actually hearing from a regular person who's having to deal with this.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me today. So the shutdown affects us all. I have to do my job as a paramedic firefighter at Naval Station Mayport. I've been there 17 years. We've kind of seen a lot of these. This one's a little different. We've lost people like our IT people. I have to do my reports. When IT people aren't there, I'm not able to do my reports. We've shut down all non-essential folks. They all go home. It affects us essential folks because we're considered accepted employees. So we we have to continue to go to work, do everything that we would normally do, our training, our calls, our protecting the base, protecting the local municipalities and everything else that's around us, but we don't get a paycheck. So for me, I live in the congressman's district and I specifically drive 2 hours and 15 minutes one way to work to be able to work.
2 hours?
So us not getting a paycheck, still required to work, we cannot get there.
Oh my goodness. 2 hours?
A lot of guys that I work with, they're worried about how they're going to pay their child support, their rent. We cut down our meals at the fire station we got guys that are going to the food pantry already. We've already missed half of a check. We're on track to lose a full check. Doesn't look like this is all going to come out until the middle of November is what I'm being told. So the longer it goes, the longer it has effects. Our health care, thankfully it still goes, but whenever our checks turn back on, we're going to get taxed heavily and all of our health care premiums, they're all going to come out of those checks. We're going to get short checks. There's some other agencies, the FBI, Homeland Security, TSA, they're getting super checks right now. So they're getting checks that are going to be what they missed plus their next coming check. They're going to get a super check where the people that are federal firefighters, federal law enforcement on Navy installations in the southeast part of the United States where we're at, TSA folks, we got about 1,300 people that aren't getting paychecks right now. So it's kind of affecting everybody, affects everybody a little bit differently. The older folks kind of plan for this type of thing. The newer folks, it kills us on recruitment and retention. We can't recruit any firefighters. We're at a stage where a lot of fire departments are being very progressive in Florida, thanks to Governor DeSantis and stuff. But we're kind of stuck in the Stone Age on schedules and this and that.
Hi, guys.
Them not getting a paycheck really isn't helping us recruit and get new folks in, retain folks.
Thank you for
Our retention
joining.
rate is going down. Our recruitment rate, we're paying all this money, training all these guys that are coming in and stuff like this with the shutdown where they're not getting checks. We hired one new guy. He started on Monday and the shutdown started on Monday. So he walked in the door and we're like, hey, thanks, welcome to our volunteer fire department that works for the federal government because you're not going to be getting paid. All the HR folks, they're not even able to bring on people. Any kind of HR problems that we're having to work through that. They did bring back a select few of them to handle mission essential type tasks, but we're still missing those type of folks at our workplace as well.
So Brandon, so let me see if we can sort of distill this down. So there are 155,000 federal workers in Florida. You're one.
You can chat if you want to, guys. Tell me your thoughts on all of this.
You need to be effective at your job aren't at work at all. They've been sent home because they're deemed non-essential, and you still have to go to work, but you aren't getting paid. Does that distill this? Now let me ask you this question. So members of Congress, the people who did this to you, they are still getting paid. Now, so by the way, I want you to know, I asked that my pay be withheld because I thought it's immoral for me to get paid, but you not. But many Democrats in the Senate who voted to keep the government shut down, there are 45 of them, they are still collecting their paychecks while you don't get paid.
That's
How
not
does
right.
that make you feel that there are Washington politicians getting their paychecks, but you can't get yours?
Congresswoman Kamek has also done it. She represents some of our folks. Aaron Bean, Congressman Bean, he's actually done it. So we appreciate that. We see you're fighting, see you're trying to stay in the fight with us, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think it's wrong. I mean, look, I want to keep the government open. So did Congresswoman Kamek, so did Congressman Bean. We all voted to keep the government open. I think it's the height of hypocrisy for those who are voting to keep the government closed. And Democrats have voted to keep the government closed now 12 times. In fact, there's one Democratic senator from Arizona who, when he was asked about this, said, "How can you expect me not to get paid? I have child support and rent that I have to pay." I mean, to me, the lack of self-awareness by these Washington Democrat politicians is truly disgusting. And frankly, I hope that we'll come back and we'll vote to say, as long as the government's shut down, the politicians aren't getting paid either. So I'm sorry about what you're going through. I mean, if you could say, last question, then I'll have a few more comments, and then we'll go to the media. But if you could say anything to those 45 Democrat senators, we only need 5. If there's anything you could say to them to say, please reopen the government, what is it that you would tell them?
Please get us to a continuing resolution. That way we can at least get our paychecks. I need to pay child support too. So if we don't have child support, we don't pay our child support, we go to jail. So I don't know how the congressman on the other side feels, but I don't want to be in that position. I want to be a federal employee and I want to go to work and I want to do my job. But I still need to feed my family. I got 3 kids. So
I'm sorry.
That was Representative Randy Fine speaking with a firefighter, talking about how the government shutdown is impacting his ability to survive along with his family right there. We are going to step away for a break. We're going to continue to play that out for you in just a moment. Stay with us. Let's head back to the conversation with Representative Randy Fine, talking about the
See what else is
ongoing
there.
federal government shutdown.
For illegal immigrants, but they are demanding that we repeal $50 billion that we just passed for American health care for Americans in rural counties. We created a $50 billion rural health care hospital fund that, for example, will help the hospitals in Putnam County, which is a rural county that I represent. The Democrats are demanding we end that $50 billion and use that money to pay for illegal immigrants in New York and California to get free health care. It was actually just reported yesterday that in Illinois, they're spending more money in their next budget on free health care for illegal immigrants than they are on building roads. I mean, that's where we've gotten in this country, where Democrats just do not care about Americans because they've fetishized these illegal immigrants. They want $500 million. They've said they won't reopen the government if we don't go back and give $500 million to NPR, which I think is nuts, because NPR is, you know, just the media. We can do the media ourselves. The people who are on this call that are going to ask
Is the sound on your guys' end
Getting
good?
$500 million for the government. They want $4 million for global LGBTQI awareness campaigns, $4 million for LGBTQI democracy grants in the Balkans, $2 million for feminist democratic principles in Africa. This is their proposal. This is their demand. This is what they have said they will allow the government to reopen if we meet their hostage demands. So this is having real effects in Florida. Floridians,
You're
we
joking,
estimate
right?
2,900 people are now on unemployment. We heard from one of the 155,000 people who
Don't
as a
forget to
federal
like
employee, we
the
think it's going
video,
to cost
guys.
$4 billion a month in the economic effect on Florida. 2.9 million people in Florida on SNAP very soon may lose their SNAP, including 1.1 million children. And the other one that really affects us is federal flood insurance, which has been shut down. And so people cannot buy houses if they need a mortgage, and their mortgage company requires them to have federal flood insurance. So the consequences of this are real, and Democrats would rather have, I'm an idiot rallies yesterday to just sort of talk about ridiculous, stupid things than
Why not
actually
put
solve the
people
problem.
in the
What's
government
ironic,
that actually
last
will
thing I'll
do
say, and
good
then I'll
for the
take
people
questions.
and just fire those people
When
that are not doing
when
their
Joe
job
Biden was
right,
in charge,
that are
Barack Obama
corrupted
was
in the
charge,
mind.
and the government shut down, they closed parks. They actually spent money to shut down parks because they wanted to punish people. All those people having their "I'm an idiot" rally yesterday got to have those oftentimes on federal parks that are
I'm an
open,
idiot
despite
rally.
the fact that we are in a shutdown right now. It's time for Democrats to go back to work. It's time for Democrats to vote to reopen the government. They'll have another chance, I think, tomorrow. And I hope they take it because I can tell you this, I am ready to get back to work solving the problem. We're working hard in the district, but there's a lot of
Hi,
bills that we need to get moving.
user.
We need to get that budget
How are
done. It's
you?
time for Democrats to reopen the government and let us come back to work.
Thanks
So
for
with
joining.
I'll tell my team if we've got questions from any of the media. This is where our technical things will be challenging. Let's see here. All right. This is neat. All right. WKMG News in Click Orlando.
Oh, thank you for the
Some
hearts.
folks are donating food, money, etc. to federal workers during the shutdown. Are there any Central Floridians who are affected by the shutdown reaching out to your office looking for
Thank
any
you.
such help? That's a great question. I'll answer this next one in a minute. The answer is yes, they are. I should make clear all of my staff is considered essential. So much like Brandon, my 15 people on my team, they are coming to work every day, and yet they are not getting paid. Ironically, I'm the only one who could get paid, but I sent a letter saying, don't pay me. So me and no one in my team is being paid, but all of our offices are open. So if you need help, go to fine.house.gov, which I think may be backwards. We'll have to figure that out for next time. The screen is mirrored, but if you look over my shoulder, you can read backwards. Find.house.gov. You can find out where one of our 6 offices are, and you can
it's
call
fine
tomorrow.
from
My team will
behind.
be there, and they will try to help you as best they can. The
I pray
problem
that
is
your
many of the
Sunday's
people
going
they're calling,
well,
can't
user.
help them. So, all right. So there was a second part to that question. If so, what specifically are they asking for, and how might people get it to them? Well, the big thing we're getting is to get the government open. People are asking, why is the government closed? And we're fighting for that. We will take this and we will come up with more resources that people can look into. But the idea that our federal workers have to go to food banks because Democrats are prioritizing the needs of illegal immigrants, it's simply immoral, it's wrong, it's disgusting. It's a great question. And we'll put some more material out through my social media on the resources that are out there. But again, if you need help with something, we are open. Find.house.gov. I represent 6 counties, and we have an office in each one of them. So the goal is to be no more than 30 minutes from where people live, so they can call the office tomorrow and someone will help them. Next question. My son is stationed in Japan with the Navy. Do you know if he will get his next paycheck if the government remains shut down? This is a question from Maria in Daytona Beach. That I don't, and that's what's horrible. President Trump found some R&D money that he could move around in order to pay our troops. Now, Democrats said, oh, no, don't pay the troops. It's crazy. I mean,
Are you
they
serious?
talked about suing the president.
That's our
to stop
troops.
him from
That's
doing
our
that.
soldiers.
But that is a real risk, that the Democrats' continued desire to keep the government shut down in order to demand this $1.5 billion billion.
The Democrats
It's a
got a
real
lot of
possibility.
nerve.
But all they have
To be
to do
doing
is
that to
vote
our
for a
troops.
clean continuing resolution. We can debate free healthcare for illegal immigrants. We can debate LGBTQ grants. We can debate going back into a COVID pandemic. We can debate bailing out the Unaffordable Care Act. We can have all of those debates when the government is open. But because they know that their arguments are garbage, they don't want to have those debates in the light of day. They talk about getting 4 people together in a smoke-filled room and working it out.
They
want
know
to
that their
cut me and every other
argument's
congressman out of it
stupid.
and just cut these deals in a back room so they can hide the failures of their policy. So I don't know that they'll get paid, and it breaks my heart. So what can you do? What can you do? Florida Senators Ashley Moody and Rick Scott are voting to open the government. We're not the problem. Florida's never the problem, to be honest. But if you know people in Georgia, both of their senators are voting to keep the government closed. If you know anyone that has a Democrat senator, call them and call their senator and tell them to reopen the government.
All right, we are listening there to Representative Randy Fine. We do need to step away for a break, but continuing that conversation in just a moment. Stay with us. Just moments ago, Representative Randy Fine, a Democrat, a Republican rather, I should say, from Florida, talking on the social media platform X about the ongoing government shutdown. Let's continue listening to his remarks right now.
Up there, I didn't see the name again. Amanda in Sorrento. I think there are on what happens next. I think people are, we've got to get the budget done. I think there's still good work being done on that. I think our side is really having a serious discussions about what to do about the Unaffordable Care Act. But no, as it relates to reopening the government, as the speaker says, there's nothing to negotiate. There's nothing for us to take out. The clean continuing resolution has 0 Republican priorities in it. So there's nothing for us to say, fine, we'll give you this if you give us that. All it does is fund the government at existing levels for 7 weeks and changes nothing. The Democrats continue to say, we don't care, don't pay our friends who are working, but we want $200 billion for free healthcare for illegal immigrants. What we need to do is the American people need to rise up and tell 5 Democratic senators, stop catering to the I'm an idiot rally and go and do your job.
Exactly.
Our agencies prioritizing who works and who doesn't. Questions from Sue and DeLand. That's largely a function of the people that are in charge in making a decision about who's essential and who is not. In my office, I had to make that decision. I could have decided that some of my people weren't essential. But for example, the policy is we couldn't have interns, which I thought was ironic because interns don't get paid, but interns are considered non-essential, and we had to, and none of our interns. I feel bad for them. We got college kids in Washington trying to get class credit, and they're just sitting in their apartments waiting because we're not allowed to have them come in and intern and do good work. So it's the executives are making that decision of who's essential and who's not. How are you finding creative ways to keep serving constituents during the shutdown? Well, my staff and I were keeping the offices open. We're going out and making visits. We're showing up. It's hard to plan. I mean, honestly, so during the August recess, I made 81 visits to the district. I visited 81 speeches and meetings and presentations, but we knew we had a 5-week period of time to plan things. Right now, we live day by day. You know, tomorrow, the Senate Democrats could come to their senses and vote to reopen the government. And then we'll go back to DC and get back to work. But on a day by day
Thank you for the hearts. God bless you guys.
We came up with this idea like Thursday or Friday. I said, hey, let's do a virtual press conference so we can talk to people. And I know I'll be heading up into the district and all over the district, you know, over the course of this week once or twice. So we're trying to get the word out. We're trying to get the communication out. The number one thing we can do is tell people to call their friends in Democrat states and tell their senators to reopen the government. Meta Minton. Congressman Fine, you called the No Kings rally the I Am an Idiot rally. Did you see any of the coverage, and what did you think is motivating the participants?
Is this seriously called that?
VillagesNews.com. I did not see any of them personally. I saw some of the coverage about it. You know, I think we've just got a lot of stupid people in the country. I mean, to call Donald Trump a king, the man who has gotten more votes for president.
He's not a king, he's a human being.
In the history of the United States. More people have gotten more votes for president than anyone in history. It's crazy.
King of kings and lords of lords is our Savior, Jesus Christ.
Yesterday. If we had kings,
not Trump.
The government would be open.
He's our
president. But I think you have people who are so
he's a human being, just like all of us.
And frankly, within the Democratic Party, we have so many who hate America. And that's something that's changed our politics over the last 30 years.
It's actually sad.
Republicans and Democrats all wanted.
Why would you hate your own country?
They just may have differed on how to get there.
It's a beautiful place, so many opportunities.
Like Omar, who hate the country she represents. Hurting America is the goal for
Why would you represent it if you hate it?
And I think you saw that in much of the rhetoric that was shared at those rallies. These people believe fundamentally that America is an evil place, a bad place, an unjust place, and they want to hurt it. And then you've got us that are fighting hard to try to save it. And I think that's a big part of what's behind a lot of those rallies yesterday. DJ 462. Do you think there should be a law passed to prevent Congress from being paid during shutdowns? I can answer that question very easily. Absolutely. I've co-sponsored a bill to do it. And if we do have to go back to Washington, I hope that is something that we will consider. But something that the media should report, and I challenge the reporters who are watching this to do this, is they should be putting out research that shows there are 45 Democratic senators who are voting to keep the government closed. How many of them have chosen to withhold their pay? That is something the American people ought to know. Or how many, I'm sure some have. But the ones who are saying, do as I say, not as I do, need to be held accountable for the hypocrites that they are. Me and many of my colleagues have chosen to withhold our pay, and we want the government to be open. But the ones who are voting to close it because they have these hostage demands, how many of them are getting paid? And no one should be getting paid. I think that's part of the problem. If you're a Democrat senator and you're still getting your paycheck and
that's
all
not right. If you are, nobody else is.
You know, so their constituents are getting hurt. They don't care. They should care, and they should have to pay. They should have to pay the price as well.
Exactly.
Has the American public become numb to shutdowns? I don't think so. I think the challenge is that the consequences have not been so substantial that people are calling. But as more people don't get paid, as services get stronger, I think more people will get upset. And I don't know.
Absolutely, they
I'm not
will.
numb to it. I think
They're
this
going
is
to work,
immoral
not even
and
get
it's
paid
wrong,
for it.
and I don't think this is
How are they
any
supposed to
way
bring
that
food
this shows why the
home?
Democrats should not be in charge.
Keep their
I mean, to
bills
simply
paid.
say you will not allow the government to
Put gas in
function
their
if
cars.
we don't give illegal immigrants free health care, frankly, it's as close to treason as I think you'll find. All right, so we're going to be wrapping up soon. Let me give some final comments here.
This isn't
I
good for
appreciate
the
everyone.
American
I can't wait to
people.
see how many people watched across all of our social platforms. If you're not following me on social media, @RepFine is the handle on all of them, whether it's X or Instagram or Facebook or Rumble or YouTube. That is our handle on all of them, @RepFine. You can also go to find.house.gov to get information, sign up for our newsletter, and if you need to talk to us, we are around. If you have speaking requests or things, if there's issues over the next 2 weeks, where frankly I'm on a day-to-day basis, if there are scheduling opportunities where I can come and visit you and help, we are looking for ways to serve our constituents at home, since we can't serve them in Washington because the Democrats have shut down the government. And I just appreciate everyone doing it. And my number one thing I would say to people, Florida's not the problem, it never is. But if you know people in Georgia, if you know people in Virginia, if you know people in New York or Massachusetts, or wherever these 45 Democrat senators are from, call your friends, tell them to call their senator and demand they reopen the government. We can have all these debates when the government's reopened. I look forward to those debates because we will win those debates. We will win the debate where we say COVID's over. We will win the debate over whether illegal immigrants should have $200 billion in free health care. We will win the debate over whether we should be funding LGBTQ nonsense in foreign countries.
No, we should
and
not.
we will win the debate about the failure that is the Unaffordable Care Act. Let's have those debates, but we have them when the government is open again and we make sure people like Brandon are getting paid. So thank you guys for watching. We will do another one of these in a few days if we need to, but hopefully we won't have to because the government will be open. Thanks everybody for watching.
All right, so that was the very latest from Representative Randy Fine, a Republican from Florida, talking about the ongoing government shutdown. And you can actually see live
Wait,
the
is that-
clock
what's
right
on
there
top
on
of
the
the
lower
White House?
right-hand side of your screen. We are now in day 19, specifically
Wait, is
18
that the
days,
government?
15 hours, and about
That's not the
4
White
minutes right there. So we did want to share that with you.
What's on top of it?
Meanwhile, taking to the other side right here, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries saying Republicans enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripped food away from hungry children, and are raising health care premiums by thousands per year. Stop pretending to be patriotic while screwing everyday Americans every chance you get. So the rhetoric continuing to ramp up as both sides are digging in their heels, and because of that, the government continues to be shut down. I did also want to play out some remarks from Senator Ted Cruz as he was talking about the impact that the government shutdown is having on travel.
It's important to highlight the real toll that this political stunt is taking on Americans, including all of us who live, work, and travel through Houston. This begins with the TSA workers and the air traffic controllers right here at Hobby Airport and all around the country. This week, thousands of these agents and air traffic controllers received their first incomplete paycheck. They are now working to ensure that travelers reach their destination safely with zero pay. This summer, in the one big beautiful bill that President Trump signed into law on the 4th of July, I was proud to author an historic $12.5 billion investment to modernize our air traffic control systems, recognizing the vital role controllers play in moving American travelers safely and efficiently through our skies. Unfortunately, because of partisan pressure from the extreme left, Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats are taking the opposite approach. 11 times now, Republicans have voted to open the government, to fund the government, and 11 times, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have voted to shut the government, to take away the paychecks of the air traffic controllers and the TSA agents and federal agents all over this country. CNN even quoted an anonymous Democrat saying that the Democrat Party will not relent and will not reopen the government unless, quote, planes fall from the sky.
What?
This is not a joke. In Houston, airports had their busiest year on record in 2024, with over
What is wrong with
63
these
million
people?
passengers moving through our city's airports. These passengers, who we have a responsibility to keep safe, are now worried about flying, experiencing longer delays, longer lines, more frequent delays, because the Democrats are playing political games with government funding. That's why I'm today announcing my bill to keep paying essential federal aviation and transportation security personnel during government shutdowns. My legislation, the Keep America Flying Act, would pay air traffic controllers and TSA agents, along with other essential personnel during the Schumer shutdown, in order to keep our airports orderly, secure, and on time. Right now, all around the country, almost all of the 50,000 TSA agents and the 14,000 air traffic controllers are working for zero pay. That's not fair, and it's not right. Right here at Hobby Airport, the FAA has warned that ground stops are possible due to staffing shortages. The number of flight cancellations and delays is steadily rising. As Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said while visiting the Baltimore-Washington airport this week, it is time for Democrats to take a lesson from everyday hardworking Americans who keep our skies safe. We cannot allow Democrats to use our airports as political leverage to try to enact their own radical policy agenda. The employees at this airport are doing their job to keep people safe, which sadly is more than I could say for my Democrat colleagues. Right now, the government remains shut down in significant part because tomorrow, all across the country, protests, radical left protests, are expected from the so-called No Kings group. The No Kings group, funded by George Soros' system, among the co-sponsors of these radical protests, is the Communist Party of America. And I can tell you my Democrat colleagues in Washington were terrified to allow the government to reopen before these left-wing protests. Why do we have a shutdown right now? Because Chuck Schumer has a political problem. In March, when Democrats worked with Republicans to keep the government open, Schumer almost lost his job. The radical left almost threw him out of office, and he's terrified of being primaried from the left by AOC. That's what this shutdown is about. It's a political stunt for Chuck Schumer to demonstrate to the radicals in the rally that he hates Donald Trump just as much as they do. But you know who the losers are? The losers are ordinary Americans, or hardworking Americans, or the families that are coming to fly to go see their kids, that are going to a family reunion, that are going to a work meeting, that are going on a vacation, that are going to travel all across the country. This game needs to end.
It does.
It is not fair that we demand air traffic controllers and TSA agents, they come in and work, but they don't get a paycheck. And I'll tell you something even more infuriating. You know who is getting a paycheck while thousands of federal workers are not getting their own? That's exactly right, members of Congress. I agree, I voted to open it up 11 times. I appreciate the heckling, but 11 times.
How is that even
11
right?
times we have voted to open the government. And 11 times the Democrats have voted against government funding. But you know who is getting their paychecks? Every member of Congress is getting their paychecks because constitutionally, under the 28th Amendment, you cannot reduce the pay of members of Congress during their service in office. But you know what you can do? You can do what I have done, which send a letter to the Secretary of the Senate saying, do not deposit my paycheck. I will not accept my paycheck so long as there are federal workers being forced to work and not getting paid. Every senator could do that. Every House member could do that. But I don't know of a single Democrat who has said, don't pay me. They are happily taking their payments, their paychecks, while they are outraged that President Trump is working to pay soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines, because the Democrat position is they would rather some young corporal protecting this country lose his or her paycheck. This shutdown has been too long. And we have a young lady screaming here. What she is not admitting is that the Democrats are also doing this shutdown because they want free health care for illegal aliens. Now, I recognize with her screaming, that's what she wants. But you know what? The people of Texas and the people of America don't want taxpayer-provided health care for illegal aliens. And so,
Exactly.
you know, I actually welcome her. I guess she's one of the first No Kings protesters.
Money belongs to
We're
the
going to see a
American
lot
people.
of these screaming radicals, and that is who is dictating. You look at these TSA agents who are not getting their paycheck, it is because screaming radicals are
You need to tell
setting the
Karen to go in
agenda
the
for
back of the
Senate
line.
Democrats. Let me finally explain this.
Or the lefty. Is she a lefty? She sounds like a
Protest is
lefty.
not what violence is, and if they're radical demands,
The door's that
I
way.
didn't say she's being violent. She's entitled to scream. Now, she's trying to disrupt, but she's entitled to speak. She's entitled to speak, but I'll tell you this. Okay, you are welcome to hold your own event wherever you like. Okay, so she will be speaking in Dallas. I told you she was a No Kings protester. It is
Typical.
funded by George Soros. It is
She
sponsored
had to
by,
come
among
here.
others, the Communist Party of America. So they have a right. And by the way, if you're laughing at me, go look.
Oh my
They
goodness.
acknowledge They're sponsored by
There's
the Communist
ambulances.
Party. They have the Communist Party logo
What
on
happened?
the advertisement for their event.
I hope that person's okay.
But I want to explain to folks at home. I want to explain to folks at home why there is a shutdown. In order to pass government funding,
Yeah.
under the Senate rules, it takes 60 votes in the United States Senate.
Okay.
There are only 53 Republicans. That means if we're going to keep the government open, at least
Only
7
53?
Democrats
I
have to
thought there
vote
was
to
a lot
open the
more.
government. Now, when Joe Biden was president, Republicans joined with Democrats. When Joe Biden was president, Republicans joined with Democrats. Exactly, because Republicans didn't shut it down. It is your party, your radicals that are shutting it down, young lady.
Can you tell Karen to go in the back of the line?
Oh, good. So we actually
Oh,
have
she's
some
irritating me.
protesters that are screaming, but they actually don't know what they're talking about. The reason the government is shut down, and by the way, it will stay shut down so long as the Democrats vote over and over and over again to shut down the government. And so this game needs to end. This game needs to end. The air traffic controller should be paid. The TSA agent should be paid. And when you get on a plane,
Usually
when
airports are
your
more
flight
crowded
is
than that
delayed,
too.
understand it is being delayed because of political games, and the games being played by the Democrats need to stop. Thank you.
You did good.
Thank you, ma'am. God bless you. I do every day. Amen.
God bless you.
All right, so the very
Amen,
latest
amen.
remarks from Senator Ted Cruz as he's talking about the ongoing government shutdown. A live look here on Capitol Hill.
Hi,
And you can see
guys.
that the camera is shaking just a little bit, perhaps a little windy there in the U.S. Capitol right there. So we are going to step away for a brief break. We
Well,
have
it's
a
definitely
lot more to
windy. I mean,
cover
look at the
on this
trees, honey.
Sunday. We'll be right back.
Trees are kind of blowing. You guys can chat if you want. There's nothing really much to watch. There's a lot going on in the world. but I just wanted to go live since I haven't went live in a while. But I will be going live a lot more soon. But I do appreciate you guys joining in. And I do pray you're having a wonderful Sunday, but stay safe. It's about to come back on, guys. Don't forget to hit the like button,
We do
please.
have some breaking news,
And
news
subscribe,
to let you know about.
comment.
This is a social media post just moments ago from Israel Defense Forces stating that in accordance with the directive of the political echelon and following a series of significant strikes in response to Hamas's violations, the IDF has begun the renewed enforcement of the ceasefire in line with the terms of the agreement. The IDF will continue to uphold the ceasefire agreement and will respond firmly to any violation of it. So this is an update that we did want to bring you as we were sharing this live look a little bit earlier of the border between Israel and Gaza as we learned a little bit more information that the ceasefire was facing its first major test as an Israeli security official said that the transfer of aid into Gaza was halted until further notice after a Hamas ceasefire violation and Israeli forces launching a wave of strikes. Earlier today, Israel's military said its troops came under fire from Hamas militants in southern Gaza and later said 2 soldiers were killed there. Israel's military said it then struck dozens of what it called
Welcome,
Hamas
guys.
targets. Health officials said at least 29 Palestinians were killed across Gaza, including children. A senior Egyptian
Oh my
official involved in the
goodness.
ceasefire negotiations said
That is
round-the-clock
heartbreaking. They're only
contacts were underway
children.
to de-escalate the situation. Now, this official spoke on the condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to reporters. Meanwhile, no immediate comment from the United States, but we did want to share the update with you that Israel Defense Forces now says it will continue to uphold the ceasefire. We are going to be stepping away for a brief moment. We'll be right back.
Woman, you just stepped away. rainy all day. Hopefully your guys' weather's a lot better.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinn. Time right now is 3:22 Eastern, 12:22 Pacific. And the Marine Corps' 250th anniversary continues to have celebrations around the United States. Vice President J.D.
Oh, that's
Vance
amazing.
attended one of those
I wanted to
yesterday,
record
and he wants to
that.
lay out his remarks for you right now.
But I got it the last minute.
Hoorah, Marines! I didn't hear you. Hoorah, Marines!
There's our
God
Marines.
bless you, Marines. God bless you, Camp Pendleton.
God
It
bless
is
you
so
guys.
much fun and such
Thank
an
God
honor
was
to be out here to
you know
celebrate 250 years of United States Marines. Now, I gotta say, first of all, thank you to so many of the fine people who are here today who make this incredible event happen and who every day make our military the finest fighting force anywhere in the world. First of all, our great Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who gave a hell of a speech, if I might say so. Pete, where you at? Now, he is a soldier, but are we proud of our Secretary of War, Marine Corps? Now, I will say, I was talking to Pete about this speech and thinking about what I said, and I realized that over my 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, I probably learned about 100 jokes about United
100
States
jokes.
Marines. And every single one of them Marines would mean the end of my political career if I told it up here today.
Oh, don't do it then.
I sent a few of them last night to my communication staff, and I said, can I tell this one? And they said, please no, sir. Please do not tell that one. We're also happy to be joined by our great Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan. John, thank you so much for your leadership and service. I got to give a shout out to my beautiful wife, our great Second Lady, Usha Vance, with the Marine Corps hat. You know, I've been asked many times, why did I want to run for and become Vice President of the United States? And there's a lot of answers, of course, to that question. I wanted to serve our wonderful Commander-in-Chief, President Donald J. Trump, and I know we're proud of him.
He's a good president, Vance.
And of course, I wanted to serve the American people and make their lives better, but really,
God bless you.
deep down, I wanted the Commandant of the Marine Corps to have to salute a member of the E4 Mafia, and now he has to. And Marines, we have a great Marine Corps Commandant in General Eric Smith. General, thank you so much for everything you do. We got General Daniel Taylor. Where is General Daniel Taylor? Apparently he was sick today.
Oh, that's not good.
We've got Admiral Gavin Duff here. Admiral, thank you for your service, sir. We've got Colonel John Caldwell and General Michael Nakanizi. Did I pronounce that right, General? There we go. I did okay. I'm the Vice President, so you can't tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, Vance.
And of course, Marines, I bring greetings today from our Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump, and he wanted me to tell each and every single one of you that he's proud of you, that he loves you, and that despite the Schumer shutdown, he is going to do everything he can to make sure you get paid exactly as you deserve.
Well, that's good because they deserve it.
Now, I know we're here to talk about the Marine Corps, but I got to get just a little political because congressional Democrats seem to want to keep the government shut down, even though it would mean that a lot of you would not get your paycheck. But as I told the president just a couple of days ago, I said, sir,
You guys
we've
and
got to figure out how to
all
pay
the
these
American
Marines,
people.
both for their sake, but also, of course, because if we don't pay our enlisted Marines Every bar in Southern California is going to go out of business, and we don't want that. Now, I've also got to give a special shout out to the incredible display that we saw earlier today. It made my heart sing as your vice president, and it was a testament to the Corps' strength and unbeatable power. It reminded me why I am so proud to have worn the uniform, to be one among your ranks, and to be the very first vice president to have been a United States Marine. Now, for us East Coast Marines, Camp Pendleton has always had a special place in our imagination. We heard the stories of the back-breaking hikes you all had to do, the West Coast Marines had to do in Camp Pendleton. You know it?
Marines are always tough.
Us East Coast Marines, we had the sand fleas and you all had the hills. I don't know
Their
which is worse.
training is wow. If I could do it.
These guys
That's what
behind me
makes
have
them tough,
opinions. So let's give some credit to the amazing Marine units who pulled this off. First of all, to the incredible Marines of this base and the Marine Corps Forces West who put on this display. Let's give a round of applause to the incredible job they did. And I want to talk about some of those units because you all made me so proud. I know we must have some Marines from the 1st Marine Division. Where are you? You all did a hell of a job. How about the Marines from the 3rd Marine Air Wing? I know we have some Marines from the 1st Marine Logistics Group, the lifeblood of the fight. Where are you all at? We've also got Marines from the 1st Meth Information Group, the brain of the fight. Where are you all at? And we've also got, of course, men and women from Marine Corps Installations West, the folks who keep the home front. Where are you, Marine Corps Installations West? There we go. Now, I know you all know we cannot leave out our brothers and sisters of the sea, so we're proud to have all the sailors of the Navy's 3rd Fleet here to celebrate 250 years of Marines. Thank you.
I don't do water, but I salute you. No.
These sailors who go to war with us, they fight over the horizon. They stand shoulder to shoulder with Marines wherever the fight takes us. And if any group shares in the glory of the Marines' 250th birthday, it is our beloved Navy Corpsmen. Let's give a shout out to the Navy Corpsmen out
250th
there. We love 'em.
celebration. Wow. God bless you.
And I know every Marine has had the story of walking into a corpsman's office, barely alive, suffering the most severe illness you've suffered in your entire life, and they'll say, just go home, hydrate, and take 2 Motrin, and it'll work out just fine. So thank you to the corpsmen for taking care of us, but also toughening us up. And that's right, and it changes socks.
You guys have
bottle of
always
water,
been
change
tough,
your socks,
though.
and 2 Motrin will fix any illness.
That's good.
So we are grateful, Marines, to be graced with the presence of some very special guests, people whose very lives contribute to the incredible Marine Corps legacy. Earlier, we all heard from Sergeant Dakota Meyer, who received the Medal of Honor in 2011 for extraordinary heroism in 2009. Are we proud of Sergeant Dakota Meyer? Yes, we are. And despite the constant rain of enemy fire, then Corporal Meyer made multiple runs across an ambush zone that day, saving the lives of 36 American and Afghan troops. Dakota Meyer,
God bless
we
him.
love you. We're proud of you. You're the very best of the Marine Corps and the very best of this country. We are also honored to be joined by American hero Charles Cran, who was a Navy corpsman attached to the 5th Marine Division when it landed at Iwo Jima. Now, as part of that force, this American hero watched the stars and stripes raised over Mount Suribachi before being wounded on the 7th day of battle while tending to a Marine. For his valor, he was awarded the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, and the Purple Heart. Sir, we love you. Thank you for your service.
God bless you.
The Marines love their corpsmen, and that's one of the very best. Another living legend we have with us today is Elmer Royce Williams, a naval aviator who, while on combat patrol in the Korean War, suddenly found himself up against 7 Soviet MiGs. Sir, thank
It's
you
MiG.
so much.
Is that like a
God
bomb
bless
or
you,
something?
and thank you.
Sounds like a bomb.
Now we're going to let the brave lieutenant take a seat, but I got to talk a little bit about him. I got to brag on him. Because despite the odds, Lieutenant Williams took down 4 of them in a single 35-minute dogfight, the longest dogfight in naval history, a record I believe that still stands to this day. Hoorah.
That's amazing.
Now, not only did he take 4 MiGs down, he demolished the MiG's reputation as an unbeatable aircraft and secured his place among the legends of American military aviation. And if you notice, we just talked about a great Marine in ground combat, a great Marine in aviation combat, and a great Marine, or I should say a great Navy corpsman who helps out our Marines. In other words, Marines can kick ass in every theater of combat, and we do it every single day. And I finally got to give a shout out to my dear friend, recently retired Master Sergeant Charles McKelvey. Chase, where you at, man? Love you. Oh, he's got a beard already. Look at that. He's been out of the Marine Corps for 3 months. He's already got a beard longer than what I got. Now, Master Sergeant McKelvey and I served together at Cherry Point when we were both very young Marines, and we've been good friends ever since. I call him Chase. Other Marines will tell you Chase is an extraordinary person, the smartest, kindest Marine you'll ever meet, and those are descriptions I can personally attest to. Now, he was supposed to join me at my inauguration to become the vice president last January, but tragically he lost his wonderful, devoted wife, Jillian, to a terrible illness just days
Oh,
before.
I'm sorry.
So I want to tell you, Chase, in front of all these Marines,
Jeez,
we're
what the
proud
good
of you. We're thankful for you. I'm sorry I couldn't see you in January, but I'm glad to see you today, my friend. I love you. Semper Fi.
All right, so we are listening to Vice President J.D. Vance as he is leading the Marine Corps 250th celebration. We do need to step away for a break, but we
I think
will
that was like a
continue to play out
3-hour
his remarks in just a moment. Stay with us. Let's continue to play Vice President J.D. Vance's remarks.
Commemorate this incredible 250th anniversary of our beloved Marine Corps. From these mountains and this water, Marines have deployed to every major fight of the last century, from island hopping across the Pacific to Vietnam's Hue City to Kuwait to Helmand and beyond. And standing here, you can feel the weight of that history. The generations upon generations of Americans who cut their teeth at this base before boarding ships and carrying the American flag into battle. But that's exactly what Marines do. For 2.5 centuries now, this beloved Corps has
Always
served
keep
as
them
our
in your
nation's
prayers, guys.
sharp edge, always forward deployed, always ready, and always faithful. My service in the Marine Corps was a huge part of my life. I would not be here today. I would not be the Vice President of the United States. I would not be the man I am today were it not for those 4 years that I served in the Marine Corps. Now, before I was enlisted, I was pretty terrified about the prospect of becoming a Marine. I'm sure that a lot of you could share that. I remember I had nightmares before I went to boot camp of drill instructors yelling at me and being away from my family
That's what
and being
toughens you up.
constantly stretched well beyond my own physical limits. It's daunting stuff, as all of you know. And as anyone who survived boot camp can tell you, it's all real. But my cousin Rachel, in particular, one last shout out to a former Marine. In particular, she pushed me to do it. A veteran of the Corps herself, she got it. She understood what joining does for a young man or a young woman. So she pushed me to go and talk to a recruiter, which I did, and I will never forget that conversation. Because at no point did he try to sell me on the United States Marine Corps. He warned me, said, you don't enlist in the Marine Corps to make money. And you all know that's exactly right. He said you might even go to war. This was back in 2003, right after we invaded Iraq. But what he did tell me is that enlisting in the Marines would teach me many things, including discipline and the virtue of leadership.
Yep.
And that was appealing to me, and I know it's appealing to Marines today and for every year of our 250-year history. Hoorah! But over the days that followed, what further dawned on me was that I needed to do this, not just for me, but for the nation. My country needed me just as sure as the country needs each and every one of you today. The September 11th attacks had occurred barely a year earlier. And as I weighed what enlisting would mean, the crisis in Iraq was becoming a full-out war. So I made the call. As an 18-year-old senior in the state of Ohio, it was one of the first times in my life that I recall feeling like the country actually needed me. And when I realized I had a responsibility to something so much greater than myself or even my family, and I had an obligation to act on that feeling of duty. And I know that's something that animates every single one of you, whether you're a private or a general. That spirit of service has been the spirit of the Marine Corps for 2.5 centuries. So I just wanted to say, from the bottom of my heart, from one Marine to another, from the Vice President of the United States to the whole Marine Corps, thank you for your service. We are proud of you and proud of your service.
God bless you guys. Thank you.
And I'm here today because I want to talk a little bit about the great Marine Corps tradition, 250 years of it. I want to talk about the tradition that all of us standing under this bright California sun, and man, it is bright. We all chose, however many years ago, to adopt that Marine Corps tradition as our own. A tradition, and in just 3 short weeks will reach its 250th year. Now, as many of you in this audience know, the Corps found its origins in the autumn of 1775. And if any of you may be familiar to you, a bar in Philadelphia called Tun Tavern.
It all started in Philadelphia?
The very first bar in the United States of America that would come to regret serving United States Marines. So here we are in Tun Tavern almost 250 years ago. And what we did in that moment was we answered the call of service. Because even before we had a Declaration of Independence, the Continental Congress organized an army and a navy to fight the British, but they recognized they needed something a little bit extra. They needed a force that could fight just as comfortably on land as it could on sea, that was able to move fast, strike hard, and hold its ground. So on November 10th, 1775, Congress resolved to raise 2 battalions of Continental Marines. Captain Samuel Nicholas established that first recruitment drive at Tun Tavern in Philadelphia in search of a few good men. He was seeking young, able-bodied citizens, men who relished the opportunity to fight tyrants, yes, but more importantly, who were eager to answer that first call of duty of a young nation. Just a few months later, Captain Nicholas was personally leading those Marines in a daring raid on New Providence, receiving British forts and supplies in the Bahamas. And 2 short years later, the Marines joined forces with the legendary John Paul Jones, the father of the American Navy, beginning a great tradition that has survived the entire term of our Marine Corps, that when the Marines and the Navy go to war together, they always fight well and they always win.
Oh, somebody's good on land and somebody's good on water.
The
You
War
can
of
surround
Independence
them
set
better
a
that way.
blueprint that Marines follow to this day. Boldness in action, unity in purpose, and a lightning readiness to go wherever the nation required. In battle after battle, the United States Marine Corps has broken the backs of empires, you've toppled tyrants, you've hanged pirates, and hunted down America's foes across the 7 seas. And Pete, it turns out we're hunting some pirates today, aren't we?
Pirates.
From Tripoli to the halls of Montezuma, from Bella Wood to Iwo Jima, and from Chosin Reservoir to Quezon, we Marines have repeatedly earned our reputation as the first to fight and the last to leave. And as all of you know, that legacy only grew stronger after 9/11.
Yep.
Within weeks after the attack, the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit, the 15th MU, already forward deployed on September the 11th, helped launch the most ambitious amphibious assault in the history of the United States of America. And that's just how Marines are wired. No matter where, no matter when, the Corps will always uphold its reputation for discipline and for unshakable focus. Now, I always think back to what Army Major General Frank Lowe had to say this about the Corps in 1952. The safest place in Korea was right behind a platoon of Marines. Lord, how they could fight, and what a great testament to the United States Marine Corps. Because while the world keeps changing, new weapons, new threats, and new ways in which we wage war, the nation will forever need the United States Marine Corps. And in the Trump administration, we know that the work you do, protecting our country, putting your lives on the line to defend our way of life, is at the heart of Marine Corps service. Now, when officials try to shift focus to mandating diversity quotas, or they try to inject partisan politics into the American armed forces, they impede the Marine Corps' ability to do its best work. And that's why the Secretary of War and the President of the United States have stood so firmly against that crap. Because when you can't operate at your best on the battlefield, it puts everybody's lives at risk. And it's why we're recentering the focus of all of our military, including the Marine Corps, on those timeless values of discipline, readiness, and faith in one another. Now, I remember when I was a young recruit in boot camp talking about how politically correct things got maybe over the last few years, and I compare it to my time in the Marine Corps. I remember I was lining up as a young recruit to go to church one Sunday morning. And back then, there were two lines. There was the Catholic line, and there was the Protestant line.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we all get into our lines, and there's one recruit who's just kind of standing there by himself. And, you know, the folks watching on TV may not realize that Marines refer to themselves in the third person when they're in recruit training, because you haven't earned the title of United States Marine, and so you have to say this recruit instead of I. And so you got this one recruit standing out there by himself, and the drill instructor says, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" And the recruit said,
Your sound just went off.
"Not our diversity that makes us stronger. It is our common purpose. It is our common mission. And it is the fact that every single person here bleeds Marine Corps green." And I think that all of you should realize that from the President of the United States on down, this government is proud of you. It's proud of the tradition of the Marine Corps, and it's proud of the fact that that great tradition has custodians in each and every single person here, each and every single Marine who is serving today. And I hope that the proud Marine Corps tradition, you heard Pete talk about this, Chesty Puller, Dan Daly, John Basilone, all of these great Marine Corps heroes, they should inspire you through their action to be the very best Marine in the future that you can be.
Amen.
Now, I remember so many people who made my Marine Corps journey and made the country better in the process. I remember a gunnery sergeant who saved me from financial ruin. I was a young Lance Corporal, and I was going to go to an off-base car dealership and buy a used car with a low dealer-provided interest rate of 22%. These Marines mind me, you aren't supposed to nod your head at that part, guys. No 22% interest.
I don't know why their audio's doing that.
Than I was. Chase knows who I'm talking about. A Puerto Rican Marine who grew up in New York City. You too, huh? A man I thought I had nothing in common with, but who I learned bled Marine Corps green just like I did, and who came to my inauguration as Vice President of the United States. I remember a Marine I served with, a guy whose political beliefs you might call far left, but despite the craziness of our politics today, remains one of my best friends and is a man I would trust with my life. I remember the Marines raising the flag over Iwo Jima, etching in American memory the importance of respecting and honoring our beautiful national symbol. I remember all my friends from the Marines, men and women, some of whom retired and some of whom made the Marine Corps proud in the civilian world. I remember General Chuck Krulak, who I met at my cousin's boot camp graduation. He was the 31st Commandant of the Marine Corps, and I was probably 14 years old, and I was taller than he was. But he was tough as nails.
That's good.
I met him as Vice President, by the way, just a few months ago. He's still very short, and he's still tough as nails, and he still loves the Marine Corps as much as he did on his first day of service. Now, he had a phrase, I'm sure you guys have heard it. He said that the most important thing the Marine Corps does for this nation is to win battles and to make United States Marines. Today, we remember a fallen Marine from the 3rd Marine Air Wing who died not far from here on a training mission. He died so recently, as a matter of fact, I can't even say his name publicly, but I want all of us to know and send a message to his family that we remember them and we know that his Marine Corps service was not in vain. Let's give a hoorah for that fallen Marine.
We are listening there to Vice President J.D. Vance as he was leading the Marine Corps 250th celebration as celebrations in California and all around the world continue. I'm Stephanie Quinn. You are watching live now. The box time right now is coming up on 3:53 Eastern, 12:53 Pacific. A lot on this Sunday. And before we head to break, I did want to share this beautiful live look of the White House right here. As you can see, the American flag waving in the wind. All right, that does it for me on this Sunday. I'm Stephanie Quinn. We'll be right back.
Alrighty, guys. I might go live again. I should watch some videos. I don't know just yet. We'll see. But I do want to thank everybody who did join. And I pray that you're having a wonderful, blessed, safe Sunday. But it is awful what's happening around the world. And we need to stay in prayer. And we need to pray for Trump, for our troops, Erica. Keep her in our prayers. Poor thing. Just keep everybody in your prayers, you know? But if you're new here, please subscribe, comment, like any of the videos, short videos, whatever, on my channel. Any suggestions would be great too. But this is all that I had for today. I just wanted to go live just to see if anybody wanted to chat, your thoughts on all of this. But I would be going live again like I did before. I've just been going through a lot right now, but I will be back. If you want to support me, you can on Patreon. Any support is always appreciated. The link for that is in my bio on my YouTube. Just click the bio. But other than that, I will see you guys soon. Everybody have a blessed day. And stay safe, okay? Thank you.